You're about to hear the hypnosis tapes of Barry and Barney Hill. Barry and Barney were married. They were an interracial couple in 1961. They were very prominent in their community. They were leaders, they were loving, and they were awesome people. Although in 1961, as they drove back from their honeymoon, this would be a day that they would never forget.
Betty called my attention to an object or a star that she had been watching. This star seemed to be getting larger and brighter.
As the star began to grow and get brighter, they noticed it was moving towards them. It was at this point that their curiosity just completely took over and they pulled over. They had a pair of binoculars, so they used those to get a closer look.
And surprisingly, this, what I thought was a satellite, began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed. This caused me to become quite alarmed, and I told my wife, well, apparently it is not a satellite, and they obviously are looking at us, and I felt uncomfortable to see this come in our direction. So I returned to the car, drove down the highway.
At this point, they are in full panic. They can sense that this object is aware of them. As they are driving, Betty looks out the window and she notices that it is following them. It was rising and falling over the tree lines and zigzagging over the road. This went on for 30 minutes as their panic began to grow and grow. Barry's logical mind assumed,
Must have been military pilots. They could obviously see. I thought they were playing a game with us out there.
the way that this object moved was so fast and bizarre. It completely dumbfounded the couple. The UFO stops in front of their car and they step out. Next thing they know, they are driving home. There's a huge gap of time that is missing, and we can understand the story with their hypnosis session. So I'm giving you a warning right now. I've compiled the clips, and now we are going to know the full story. I will also provide some picture evidence.
There's a man, and the captain, what is he? Just keep looking and stay there, and just keep looking, just keep looking. Oh, I gotta pull these binoculars away from my eyes.
Did you hear him tell you this?
Oh no, he didn't say it.
You felt he said it.
I know.
You know he
Just there, just stay there, he's saying to me. I'll take in my head, just don't pull the binoculars away. God, give me strength. Pull them down. Run! Pull these binoculars down and run. God, it says my God, give me strength. I gotta get away. Oh, Betty! We gotta get away, Betty!
All right. Calm down.
I'm driving. I gotta get away.
This creature was staring at Barney and speaking to him telepathically. He would say just how terrified he was of looking in those eyes. He would repeatedly say that it is inside his mind. From there, Barney and Betty were escorted inside of the craft, and it was here where the beings performed experiments.
I don't want to be operated on. When I was lying on my stomach, did not dare open my eyes. I thought, are they putting a cup around my private parts?
Now, I've just been playing hypnosis clips from Barney, but I want you to hear this one from Barry. Warning, because this one is quite disturbing.
There's a whole cluster of needles. The needle has a wire on my back. The examiner has a long needle. It's bigger than any needle I've ever seen. He just wants to put it in my navel. It's just a simple test. I don't know it will hurt. Don't do it. Don't do anything for me. Into my navel. I'm crying and I tell him it's hurting. Take it out. And then the leader, his hand, runs his hand in front of my eyes. And he says, I'll be alright. And all the pain goes away.
This is Barry's real dress, the one she got abducted in. She has the tears that she recounted in her hypnosis, and she also had an unknown liquid on the dress where she said that the needle was inserted. Not only that, but they discovered their car had these strange circles all over it. Now, there are pictures of this, but they have been completely wiped off the internet. Whenever the UFO shut their car down, they had recalled that the car was vibrating and resonating like a tuning fork. And we assume that this is when those circles formed on the back of the car. These hypnosis tapes bring a tear to your eye. it is difficult to listen to the trauma that they experienced. Of course, the couple were heavily interrogated and deeply ridiculed by the community. At first, this would be kept private, but eventually everything became public and it became world news. We can be thankful that it did so we can know their story, because otherwise this would have been pushed under the rug. This incident left both Barry and Barney with severe PTSD, because, I mean, it's basically just being kidnapped. I mean, they were completely powerless. And there is much more to this story, but I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to cut it off here. You're about to stare into the eyes of the world's most haunted doll. I'm not joking either, so if you don't want to do that, just... This is Robert. Just kidding, this is Robert. And whenever I look at him, I get a very strange feeling. A little bit sick to my stomach and very uneasy. The holes in his face are because of termites, and he sits at a museum, and I kid you not, they tied him down. And I will show you a clip of this, but they said they tied him down because he moves on his own.
He's tied in with monofilament. That's because of his constant moving. He's tied to the chair. So people used to talk about Robert getting up and moving all the time. Now the movements that people report are things like Robert swallowing.
That's not cool, man. Personally, I would not let that slide, and that doll would be... Actually, I can't talk bad about it. Never mind, I take it back. Robert sits at a museum, and if you went there, you would see this big wall of letters. The reason these are here is because after people visit him, strange things start to happen to them. That's why the workers at the museum will always tell you, respect Robert, because he is truly alive. The doll was purchased in Germany by a man named Robert Otto. He flew the doll back to the States and gifted it to his son. And almost immediately, strange things started to happen. His son would talk to the doll, but the parents would hear a voice respond back. It was a deep and disturbing voice. Not only that, but their house was constantly being destroyed by an invisible force. They would walk into their son's room and he would be cowering in a corner, and Robert would be sitting on the bed staring at them. Robert Otto would for some reason keep the doll, but eventually when he moved, he left the doll behind. And then unfortunately, the new owner of the house had to discover on her own that there was something wrong with this doll. She then brought it to the museum.
When she brought him here, she came in frantic. I talked to the curator who was here at the time. He said she came in saying, this is Robert the doll. He belonged to Gene Otto and he's haunted. I need you to take him. She said he had locked her in her room. He pushed her in her room, slammed the door, and held the doorknob so that she couldn't get out.
Oh, wow.
And that's when she brought him here. And they didn't put him on display. They kept him in the back.
Robert resides at the East Martello Museum. So, if anybody wants to visit him, you just gotta go there. And you can look at him sitting in his box. Also, seriously, thank y'all for the support. I've gotten like 5 million views in the past 20 days, which I definitely did not expect. But I'm very happy about it. And I just know that I just want to make the best videos that I can. So I'm going to do that, and I hope y'all are entertained. And yeah, I'll have a YouTube channel out soon, so I'll let y'all know when that is. I want to research stories and then tell them. I don't want to tell stories that people have already seen. I'm trying to find stories that no one knows about. Sheesh. This is Yuri Lipsky. He's from Moscow, and he was on vacation in Egypt where he wanted to do a dive. The dive he was planning was at a location called the Blue Hole. Divers will drop into the blue hole and descend 181 feet. It is there where they find something called the Arch. It's an 85-foot long tunnel, and once you swim all the way through, you get to the Red Sea. The danger is that the blue hole is very deep, and you do not want to descend past the Arch. The blue hole drops around 400 feet down. Then there is a ledge, and you could slip off and you could go down thousands and thousands of feet. Now, to do this dive, you need to be a very experienced scuba diver. You also need a special mix of gas. Because everyone said that Yuri couldn't go in, he just decided to sneak in. So we strapped on a camera and jumped in. There is a video of this entire incident. I'm just going to show pictures here, but if you want to see the video, you can go find it. But yeah, the video is pretty sad, so that's why I decided I'm not going to play it. Everything starts off normal, and he kind of wanders away from the group, and then he eventually gets to this point where there is this little ledge. So he goes over the ledge, and in the video you notice that he is dropping at a very rapid rate. As it continues, it gets darker and darker, and it almost seems as if he's not really aware of what's going on. It doesn't seem like he's making much effort. And it starts to get really dark. Then he makes contact with the ground. It is here where you can hear him trying to activate his buoyancy compensator, something that you can inflate to help bring you back up to the surface, but unfortunately his had a leak. He also had a weight belt on, and he had the wrong type of air in his tanks. His watch is beeping, and he looks at his gauge, and he is down 392 feet. He He then tumbles over, and he is on a slant, so he is sliding down this embankment. Remember, he is close to an edge that drops off thousands and thousands of feet. Yuri continued to struggle until everything would go still. At the depth that he was at, we can assume that he had nitrogen narcosis. And it wasn't until days later, when his family noticed he didn't return home, that they began to look for him. That's when they found him at the bottom of the blue hole with his camera running.
Get down!
Put something around my neck.
I'm so scared.
You're about to witness the real footage of the San Pedro hauntings. Take a seat because this story is crazy, and it's about a demon that resides in an attic. This is definitely one of the craziest stories I've covered. We have Jackie. She's a single mother that just rented out a new house. She is 23 years old and she has a 2-year-old son. By the way, it is the year 1988. This is where the story gets bizarre. Orbs of light start wandering around her house. And these orbs you can see with your bare eyes. This is not just a camera phenomenon. They are floating around her house and they are following them and taking pictures of them. Things being misplaced and turned upside down. Bed sheets being mysteriously burned. Footsteps constantly sprinting up and down the attic. Doors opening and shutting, intense episodes of sleep paralysis, and constantly being shoved. When Jackie recounts these memories, it is not something that is easy for her to talk about. She was genuinely traumatized.
There's something that's in the house that actually was there before you came, so it's not your house, it's their territory, not yours. So you're the intruder. That's how I felt. I felt like I was the intruder.
At this point, Jackie is just done. She's freaking out. It always feels like something is watching her. She decides to invite her ex-husband over for support. He stops by, and he would say that truthfully, he just thought Jackie was trying to get attention. So, making an effort to figure out what is in the house, he challenges it.
If you are here, let's see.
Show yourself.
Of course, nothing happened. And he's like, see, I told you. But then he leaves, and Jackie goes in the closet. Written hundreds and hundreds of times is Jackie's ex-husband's name. Al. Every A in blue and every L in red. The challenge has been answered. With nowhere else to turn, Jackie calls a paranormal investigation crew. Keep in mind, it is 1988, so they have these huge cameras. It's like holding an RPG on your shoulder.
All of a sudden, the light goes off.
Right during the interview.
Immediately after they get there, the mayhem starts, and hearing footsteps coming from the ceiling, they decide to investigate the attic. Listen to this recording.
He's walking back and forth up there.
It is walking, definitely.
Quiet, everyone. Shh, quiet.
No one is up there, yet they can hear footsteps running back and forth. So at this time, one of the investigators decides to go up with his camera. He snaps 1, 2, and on the third, his camera is ripped out of his hands. The lens is thrown on one side of the attic, and the camera on the other. At this point, they're like, this is way too much to handle, we need to leave. It was only until later that night when they received a desperate voicemail that they decided that they should come back and check the house one more time. This is a mistake that they would never forget. Trigger warning, because the footage you're about to see is disturbing. When the investigators arrive back at the house, 2 of them decide to go back into the attic, Jeff and Barry. At this point, they're just trying to figure out what is going on and they just want to help Jackie. They cautiously pull themselves through the tiny hole, and immediately, once inside, they both feel like they're being watched. Jeff was just carrying a flashlight, although Barry had his camera. And just as soon as they got in, Barry heard Jeff scream. It is then when he turned around to see what happened, but it was extremely dark. The only thing he could make out was Jeff's shirt, and he noticed that Jeff was pressed up against the rafters at a 45-degree angle, his head pulled flush against the wall. The only source of light Barry had was the flash on his camera, so he began to snap pictures. This is what he captured. A piece of clothing line had been wrapped around Jeff, and then something lifted him and attached him to a nail on the rafter. Barry had to fight to get him down. Here's the video following the incident.
Come on down, Jeff. What happened?
Put something around my neck.
Look at his. Oh shit. Oh my God. Jeff, please get down.
I gotta get out of here.
Whoa.
It's definitely raising me up.
Jeff.
Keep the mic on. Keep the mic on. Jeff, here you go, buddy. Here you go. Here you go. What the hell happened? Are you okay, buddy?
Oh, shit. God.
Look at his neck.
Look,
Jeff,
come on.
what's behind your neck?
I don't know what's on my neck.
Come on down. Come on down.
A piece of rope.
Oh, shit.
Gary, get down out of there, buddy. Turn the camera.
Jeff, are you okay?
Jeff,
I'm fine.
Jeff, tell me what happened, buddy.
Well, I don't know, Gary. I told Gary that there was nothing happening up there, and he turned around and came. He was coming this way. All of a sudden, I feel this thing around my neck, and it's got me hanging, and it's pulling on my leg.
You were hanging?
Yeah, I was hanging. Gary had to bring me down.
I really wanted to fit everything in this one video, but it's getting pretty long now. And I mean, just look at his face. This is a man that has just been traumatized. So yeah, comment for part 2 and I will get that out.
What's wrong?
What happened?
Welcome to part 2 of the San Pedro hauntings. After the incident with Jeff,
Look at his neck. Oh my God.
If I had not been there, he would have strangled, and he would have probably died there in that attic because he didn't know what was going on. And I finally had to actually bend the nail down straight to even get the rope off of it.
the activity continued to pick up. One of the cameramen would also pass out and hit the floor, and they found this red marking on Jackie's baby's forehead. It's at this point where everyone said, we gotta get out of here. So they left, and it would be the last day Jackie had in that house. This is not the end of the story though. Jackie moved 300 miles from San Pedro to Weldon, and the entity followed her. Orbs, the objects, the burning, the footsteps, and bodily fluids leaking from her walls. This is a real picture, and by the way, they would take this to a laboratory to test. Jackie called the paranormal investigation team back over, and to learn more about this entity, they decided to do a Ouija board session. It is here where we learn some very interesting things.
Told them that he had been murdered, held underwater in San Pedro Bay in 1930. And when asked how many ghosts reside among the living, it spelled out, "Phantoms fill the skies around you."
Investigators were extremely startled at how well this thing communicates. It speaks in full sentences. Not only that, but the table would shake violently, and one of the investigators would be thrown out of his chair. And if there's one thing they learned about this entity, it's that
this thing was filled with hatred. It was doomed to wander. This table's vibrating. I ask it, why are you focusing your energy on me? And it spelled out, because you are the likeness of my killer.
This entity wanted to hurt Jeff. Only that, but the investigators found a newspaper article. It told the story of a man that drowned in 1930. His name was Herman Hendricks, and he was a fisherman. Now, this is the craziest part. You remember the knot?
Back in the 30s, they all used it. It's been used for hundreds of years. That is a very common knot. It's used every day by seamen, by fishermen.
The Ouija board session was a huge mistake. Now that Jeff has interacted with this thing on a deeper level, it shifts his focus to him and follows him home. Because of the things that it would do to him, he would develop PTSD.
The response he had to this was one of post-traumatic stress disorder, where it's you don't see the effects till sometime later, and they're quite debilitating.
Whenever you'd be in one room, something would happen in another room or behind our back.
This entity loved knives and scissors. It was constantly throwing them and stabbing them into the walls and floors. It would shatter his windows, and they would throw the glass in the trash, but as they come back inside, they would find the glass in weird places, like their typewriter. It would place scissors under his pillows, and it would turn on the burners and place things on top of it to burn them.
Oh, shit.
What happened?
I don't know.
Oh,
Something flew behind me.
And when we turned and looked, there was a box of 22 caliber rifle shells. Bullets, actually, had been placed on top of the right front burner.
Now, it is hard to find much information beyond 1990, so I'm not really sure what came of Jeff, but the one thing I do wonder is if this entity is who he says he is. To me, it is bizarre to think that a human spirit could have that much power. The powerful incidents in this house are very similar to other stories, like the previous story I've covered about the poltergeist. Just looking at this picture, you know that that is not human. So yeah, that's gonna do it here. I'll catch y'all later. Oh, and by the way, I got a crazy story I'm working on right now, and I'm super excited. I think it'll be out tomorrow, so stay tuned.
Oh, my back's burning.
If you guys haven't seen this, you should watch because it is crazy. So a group of friends is opening this door that hasn't been opened in 6 years. And the reason they haven't opened it is because it is creepy and it just has a weird vibe. And it took them a long time to open the door because it felt like someone was pushing on the other side.
Oh.
Side note, she has some crystals on the floor. I don't know what those are supposed to do, so if someone knows, just comment.
Okay, hold on. Give me the lighter. I need
Light it. Okay, why did that take so long?
Is there cameras in there?
Why would there be cameras? Grandpa crazy. Oh, it's just a bedroom? Are you going in?
No, I'm getting a bad feeling about this.
I don't feel good. No, I don't.
This is why white people die in movies, bruh.
Nah. We have black up in this.
Oh my god, I just got so lightheaded.
What is that?
I just got.
Corbin, don't be going through this stuff.
I just got so lightheaded. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I got lightheaded as soon as I walked in here.
Yeah.
You are not welcome here.
So now they are saging the room and every sign is telling them to just leave. Some of them are staying back, but watch what happens next.
Oh, my head's itching. I
If
think
there's
there's
any
lights
spirits
in here.
leave. You are not welcome.
Why is Santa Claus locked up?
That thing's creepy.
Why, Santa, why are you locked up? It could be an object in here.
Yeah.
Did your grandpa ever think about that? Like, it could be an object. You could just burn the whole room. What are you doing in the closet, dude?
Oh, my back's burning.
Is it really?
Bitch, my back's
burning. I don't know. Oh my god. Look, you're kidding.
Stop.
No, get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
Scratch marks up your back.
Stop. No, you did. Stop. You're giving me anxiety.
Oh my god.
You're kidding, right? You're
No.
kidding. Look.
So as you can see, we have 2 separate claw marks. Each claw has 3 whatever it is. So yeah, this is supposed to be the mark of a demon. It's actually very common that a lot of people get scratched like this, and apparently it is a demon. So if you think of it, there is an invisible creature in that room that has claws, and it just scratched his back twice. Most famously, I don't know if you guys have seen Ghost Adventures, but Zach visited a place called Hell's Gate, and this was his back after he got scratched. And honestly, now that I'm talking about it, I feel like my back is finna get scratched right now because I don't have a shirt on, so I'm gonna go. I'll see y'all later. Everything that you're about to see is real.
Oh my god. We have a poltergeist in the house.
So yeah, this is a warning to all you guys that don't want to see this. Just turn it off because this is crazy. Living in the house, we have Jamie and Susan up here. They're mother and daughter. We also have Matt and Marie, but they didn't want to appear on camera. Immediately after they moved in, strange things started to happen.
Oh my god. But then we started finding things stacked or arranged in certain ways. I thought that Marie was doing it. At this point, we started taking pictures of everything because we wanted proof.
Every day, the house is getting completely ransacked.
Everything was twisted and pulled out or on the floor.
This would make them turn on each other because they're like, who is doing this? Things are being written on the walls, food is on the walls.
Oh my god.
After a few weeks of this mayhem, they just come to the conclusion, they're like, yep, we have a ghost. And eventually, running out of solutions, they decide that they should offer it something. So they look around and they find this cute little glass cat. So the mother and daughter set up a little seance, they get a cat on a table, light some candles, and Matt is not happy. And things are about to turn really bad. All the stuff you just saw, it is nothing. Just wait.
He was very much against communicating with it. He was very much against giving it a gift. He called it talking to the devil.
Honestly, I don't want
I was making an effort to change things.
Matt just got really angry.
Matt, Daddy, don't do that. Dad, don't you dare!
It's enough of that.
It was one of those times where you just can't believe what you see before your eyes. I know it landed in the field. I saw it.
This is where it all hits the fan. This spirit is not happy and they find that cat is being written everywhere. Cat, cat, cat. Not only that, but as they are cleaning, they find this huge footprint. This is the real picture. A few days later, Marie was at the house by herself, unfortunately, and she was watching TV when it began to flicker. She reached for the TV remote, but as soon as she did, it flew away and hit the wall. And then a rocking chair to her right began to rock back and forth, as if something sat down and was now staring at her. At this point, she is frozen in fear, but she has her digital camcorder at her side. They always had them at their sides because they just wanted to capture this footage. She snapped a few pictures, and this is what she captured. The story gets much crazier. There's an incident at the end that is just horrible. I'm gonna cut this one off here though because I'm at the 3-minute mark. So I'll probably make part 2 tomorrow. Just let me know what y'all want, if y'all want part 2. And yeah, part 2 is pretty crazy. Yeah, I could get it done tomorrow, so yeah, just let me know. Alright, peace. Welcome to part 2 of the most terrifying documented haunting. This episode is going to cover the last day that the family had at this house. This was by far the worst day for activity, and unfortunately, Jamie would be left all alone. It is extremely hard for her to tell the story because of the trauma she went through.
It's hard to relive all of this.
As she waited for her parents' return, she barricaded her door shut. This gave her some sense of safety, although as her mother would say,
she was wrong. This pounding started on my bedroom door. It was so loud, I was actually frozen in fear.
Jamie backed into a corner of her room as this creature banged and banged. This went on for 3 hours. She was so terrified she couldn't even move. Being in a life or death situation, she makes the decision that she has to do something. Jamie cautiously stands and creeps towards her door. She reaches her hand towards the doorknob, knowing that she is about to face her nightmare. But as soon as she's about to touch it, the banging stops.
Right before I opened the door, it would stop.
Eventually, Jamie worked up the courage to fully open the door, and what she found was terrifying.
I opened the door. There was just a giant hole. It looked like a battering ram hit the door. And the doorknob was bent.
Pots, pans, hammers, anything it could to smash the door. To the right of her room in the hall, there was a bathroom. The lights were flickering and the bathroom did not have a doorknob. Jamie knew she could feel that this creature was now in the bathroom. Panicking, she ran back into her room and opened her drawer. It was there that she found a string. She ran back to the bathroom, looped the string through the door, pulled it shut, and leaned back against the wall. In this moment, she was absolutely petrified. As the door began to tug and pull, she knew that she was about to come face to face with her nightmare.
I started feeling it pulling on the string. Stop it! I was freaking out because I figured that once that door opened, I was gonna see something from my nightmares. Some demon that was gonna come at me. I knew that there's nothing I could do to stop it.
As the bathroom door started to creak open, her room door slammed in her face. She fell back, utterly defeated and petrified. As the creature came out of the bathroom, she could hear it tearing the house apart. It was mad and it was going to make her so. She could hear it crawling on the walls, grabbing every drawer and item in the house, throwing it and tearing it apart. Knowing the power that this creature possessed, she knew she had to run. As her survival instincts fully kicked in, she swung open her door. Her entire house had been covered in toilet paper. Not only that, but a fire had been lit on one of the toilet paper rolls. The roll was a wick, and all the paper strewn about her house was fuel to burn it down with her inside. She ran through the maze of toilet paper and made it to her front yard, where she sat defeated. After this, the family accepted going bankrupt and they never stepped foot in the house again. The craziest part about this is not only they left, but 5 houses in the vicinity also left. We can assume that this creature or demon was going door to door, and no one would purchase any of these houses. It terrorized all of these families, and they had no choice but to leave. No one has ever solved this mystery to this day. In 1947, an American ship picked up a distress signal from an unidentified vessel. The first transmission was all officers, including the captain, are dead. The next transmission was the whole crew is dead, and the last one was I die. After that, it went silent. So the Americans trace the signal, and it's a ship that is drifting off in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They assemble a rescue team and go to board the ship. Once on board, they find that every single crew member has died in the exact same position. They have a look of terror on their face, and they all have their arms up as if they're trying to shield themselves from something. Not only that, but all bodies on the ship were decomposing at an extremely rapid rate. And although it was around 100 degrees outside, the ship was 40 degrees. The Americans decide the best thing to do is just tow the ship in for evidence. After they tied the line, smoke started to billow from inside of the vessel. The Americans all ran and jumped overboard. And then the ghost ship exploded so powerfully that it sent it flying into the air. And as soon as it hit the water, it sank, erasing all of the evidence.